If Coralie Sardi had lived another life, in another time and place, she might have become a champion swimmer, a lauded athlete with garlands crowning her head, surrounded by crowds who pleaded for her autograph after she crossed the Channel from England to France or circled Manhattan Island. Instead, she swam in the Hudson as dusk crossed the horizon, making certain to keep to the shadows. If she were a fish, she would have been an eel, a dark flash secreted within the even darker water, a lone creature set on a journey northward, unable to stop or rest until her destination had been reached. On this raw night, she stepped out of the river when she could swim no more, shaking from exertion. The relay swimming title had just been granted to a fellow from the New York Athletic Club who'd been dubbed the Human Fish, but Coralie could have beat his time with ease. She climbed onto a deserted bank under a sky swirling with stars and stood ankle-deep in the mud. She wrung out her hair, a smile playing at her blue lips. This had been her longest swim thus far. She'd lasted 90 minutes in the frigid river, a personal record. A wind had picked up, and the weather was raw. Few swimmers would have been able to tolerate the cold, rushing water. All the same, Coralie was no champion. She had no clock, and no admirers. She wore men's clothes, which made her movements easier, fitted trousers and a white shirt tucked into her waistband. Before dressing, she coated her limbs with bear grease, mixed with digitalis, a concoction meant to act as a stimulant and keep her warm. Still, despite this elixir and her training to withstand inhuman circumstances, she shuddered with the cold. As she forged her way through a tangle of reeds, Coralie realized the rising spring tide had carried her off course. She was much farther north than she'd anticipated, and had arrived in the no-man's land of Upper Manhattan, where the Dutch had once farmed enormous tracts in the wetlands. Not far to the east, there were still small villages along the Harlem River, inhabited by communities of Black Americans and Irish immigrants who had settled on that river's sandy coves, their houses hidden from view by enormous beech and tulip trees that were more than 300 years old. Unlike most rivers, the current in the Hudson ran in two directions. Pushed north by the Atlantic Ocean, turning into rivulets and streams and meeting with the Harlem River before the combined waterways receded south to the harbor. After a winter of heavy squalls and snowfalls, the Hudson was moving much faster than expected. Coralie's father's calculations had therefore proved wrong. The professor was waiting nearly 3 miles to the south, alongside the liveryman and his carriage, ready to greet Coralie with a wool blanket and the flask of whiskey he vowed would keep her from catching a chill in her lungs.